Welcome to the 2024 Greenup County Fair Feeder Calf and Market Beef Show. And we are excited that you're here with us in our new facilities. And so we're going to start this class by calling Class 1 of 4-H feeder calves into the show ring at this time. Class 1 of 4-H feeder calves has two exhibitors, Jackson McGinnis and Ava Rohr. Okay, Judge, this is your class.
Good morning, Greenup County. I'm sure tickled to be here. I really like the facility, and I hate to hear what you guys went through with your barns. If you would bring your animals on up right here, please. And nice to see what you guys have done and the support you must have had to get this done. And we'll move right along today, and I'll try to give you the best analysis of your cattle and your young showmen as I can. And we're beginning with a nice class of feeder calves here. Young lady brings us a nice steer that's just packed full of muscle, and as I talk about your animal, you can go ahead next to the ring if you would. This is a steer that's just packed full of muscle when you get behind him. He's got a lot of nice pieces that you'll appreciate. I think he's plenty adequate in terms of the depth of body that he has. I like the angle of his shoulder blade and the extension through his front 1/3. Just kind of overpowers our red white-faced heifer that's in second. Now the young man brings us a nice long-bodied heifer. I appreciate how sound she is. Just doesn't quite have the substance or the power to get any higher in the feeder calf class. If you would, give these two a round of applause. A nice set of kids to start this show.
Your results from Class 1 of 4-H feeder calves: in second place, Jackson McGinnis, and winning Class 1 of 4-H feeder calves and advancing to the Grand Champion runoff, Miss Ava Rohr. Ready for Class 2 to enter the show ring at this time. We have 5 exhibitors in Class 2 of 4-H feeder calves. We're looking for an entry from Sadie Rohr, Brevin Pope, Joseph Miller, Danielle Whitlock, and Hadley Webb. Okay, Judge, this is your class.
Class of feeder calves here to analyze, and I left the two out here that are my top two just to, I think you give a better portrayal of why I place them, how I'm going to place them. We're going to begin this class with the young lady heifer in this class. She brings us a really nice pattern feeder calf out here. I think where she's got a little bit of advantage compared to the heifer in front of her is as you analyze how she transitions into her front 1/3. She is really solid spine from her tail head clear up to her chine. I like how smooth and flat shouldered she is, yet when you analyze her from there back, she's got enough power to her. She gets around the ring well. I just think she's a little smoother pattern from the center portion of her body forward, and that gives her advantage over the second place heifer. Congratulations. Young lady brings us a really nice market heifer, appearing heifer. The first thing I really appreciate is how thick this heifer is. I think in a market heifer division, she'll be ultra competitive. I like the amount of bone that she has between her joints. I like the substance of ribs she has and the three-dimensional shape that she has. Again, like I said, who's analyzing the heifer that wins this class, I like to see her a little bit fuller in her heart girth and a little bit truer. As you analyze her, she gets older, what will be her ribeye as she matures. I think when she collects that young lady gets a little more experience showing her. This is going to be a really competitive market heifer. I really appreciate how much stifle she has, how much muscle she has. As we move on to our third place steer, I really appreciate the hair coat this steer has. Yeah, please give young lady a round of applause for bringing a nice heifer out. And moving on to our third place steer, this is a steer that, again, I appreciate his hair coat. I know that in the so-called real world out here in these hot days doesn't make a bit of difference, but that is a big trading tool within the show cattle industry. He's got a nice healthy hair coat on him. I like when you get behind him the width that he has to his pin set. I like how long coupled he is. I think this steer has some nice features. Where I like to change him some in his design is in his heart girth when you analyze him. And when you look at the elevation from his grow bone to the top of his shoulder, runs downhill just a shade. I'd like to trim him up in his heart girth, level him out in his spine a little bit to get any higher in this class, and open him up at the ground just a shade, make him a little wider based. But there are some really nice pieces of that calf. Congratulations on third place. Move on down the line. I think that anybody watching this class will agree that these two heifers are a little bit farther behind in terms of maybe their overall substance and base width and maybe maturity at this stage of the game. But I appreciate how long-bodied these heifers are. I appreciate how they navigated around the ring, how sound and true they are. I think from a production standpoint, either one of these can make a cow for you. So please give these kids another round of applause for a nice set of feeder calves.
Results from Class 2 of 4-H feeder calves. In 5th place, Danielle Whitlock. In 4th place, Brevin Pope. In 3rd place, Joseph Miller. In 2nd place, Sadie Ford. And the winner of Class 2 4-H feeder calves and advancing to the Grand Champion runoff is Hadley Webb. We're ready to call Class 3 of 4-H feeder calves into the show ring. At this time, we're looking for 2 exhibitors in Class 3. We're looking for James Ray Hall III and Jace Keys. Okay, Judge, this is your class.
Another class of feeders as we get into the little bit heavy. Nice class to analyze. I think the steer that wins this class just simply on sheer power. He kind of overpowers our steer in second. When you get behind him, he has a world of muscle in him. I like how opened up he is at his pin set. Just a lot of true muscle in him from stifle to stifle. This is one that has a lot of three-dimensional shape, more than adequate in terms of depth of body he has. I could change him a little bit. I'd like to strengthen him up just a shade in his spine as he transitions into his front 1/3. Maybe like to see him set those rear ankles down a little bit softer compared to our second place steer. Just too much muscle and raw power for the steer in second to get around this steer. Congratulations on your first place steer. Our steer in second doesn't like my voice. I'll try to be as quick as I can. So first of all, this young man wins the best shirt of the day award. I told him I really like his choice of shirts today. But this young man, is a steer that has an advantage in terms of overall levelness of spine and the way he is in his heart girth compared to the steer that wins the class. Just not enough power and raw muscle to get any higher within this certain particular feeder calf class. But I do appreciate the intangibles this steer has from a structural soundness standpoint. Please give him a round of applause if you would.
Results from Class 3 of 4-H feeder calves. In 2nd place, James Ray Hall III. And the winner of Class 3 4-H feeder calves and advancing to the Grand Champion runoff goes to Jace Keys. We're now ready for our 4th and final class of 4-H feeder calves to come into the show ring at this time. We have 2 exhibitors in this last class of 4-H feeder calves. We have an entry from Zyler Imler and one from Cole Stevens. Okay, Judge, this is your class. I'd like to ask all first and second place winners from the previous classes of feeder calves to be close by the makeup ring for selection of Grand and then Reserve Champion 4-H feeder calf. This might be a good time to introduce our judge that's working for us today. This is Mr. John Spiker from Jane Lew, West Virginia. Graduated from West Virginia University with a degree in agricultural business and economics. He's a 5th generation cattle farmer and he's raising the 6th. He has evaluated livestock for over 27 years, as well as groomed cattle on every level, including multiple national champions. He is the past president of the West Virginia Angus Association and the current president of the West Virginia State Livestock Roundup. He currently manages a herd of Angus-based cows and a flock of commercial ewes in Jane Lew with his wife Kate and 6 daughters who are all active on the farm. John Spiker, thank you for coming from West Virginia to sort our cattle today. I'd also like to ask for a round of applause for our ring steward. Senator Robin Webb has joined us today. I don't know of any other senator in the state that's busy working the beef show at the county fair, but we appreciate her coming and giving us a hand in the show ring. And the third set of hands we have in the show ring when she's not taking pictures, she's proven to be a good hand for multiple years in a row. Was captured by Cat Photography last year, but please note that if you would like to take a look at her pictures and purchase some, that is now KV Media. And we have cards up here on the table, but if you're on social media, KV Media, that's Kilo Bravo Media. And if you want to take a look at it, it's just excellent work, and we appreciate her in the show ring as well.
As we wrap up our feeder calf classes, I think got a nice pair of steers here to analyze. We're going to begin with this gray calf again, one that's just packed full of muscle. There's a lot of true muscle in this calf. He's definitely advanced in his age and his size, his maturity compared to some classes that we've had. With that said, he brings a lot to the table. I like his bone work. I like his flexibility. I like his three-dimensional shape as you get an angle and analyze the turn to his top and the spring of rib that he has today. Just a lot of nice pieces in this calf. Another one I maybe like to strengthen a little bit in terms of his heart girth and how he goes into that front 1/3. But when you got an extra rib like that, have one that's a little longer, that's pretty common. With that said, this calf's got a lot of power and a lot of nice intangibles to win this class. Congratulations, the young man. As we move on to our black and white painted steer, this steer is striking on the profile. I really appreciate how level spined he is. I think he's adequate in terms of the levelness and the depth of body that he has compared to his frame. The steer's got some nice angles to him. Just kind of gives up a little bit in terms of overall raw power and muscle and distance from stifle to stifle when you get behind him to get any higher in this class. But boy, he's got a nice skeletal build. Just like to see him have a little bit more meat to get any higher in this class. But that's a nice steer. Congratulations on your second place steer. Please give him a round of applause.
Your results from Class 4, your final class of 4-H feeder calves. In second place, we have Cole Stevens, and the winner of Class 4 in advancing on to the Grand Champion runoff goes to Zyler Implant. We are now poised to have our Grand Champion 4-H feeder calf runoff. We're going to ask the winners from the 4 classes of feeder calves to come back into the show ring. We're going to ask that if you were a second place calf from those classes that you remain close by in the makeup ring for selection of Reserve Champion feeder calf after the Grand has been picked. So, into the show ring at this time, we would like the winner from Class 1 of 4-H feeder calves, Ava Rohr. The winner from Class 2 of 4-H feeder calves, Hadley Webb. The winner from Class 3 of 4-H feeder calves, Jace Keys. And finally, the winner from Class 4 of 4-H feeder calves, Zyler Imler. Okay, Judge, this is your class for Grand Champion 4-H feeder calf. And these awards are sponsored by Cox Farms and Produce.
If you would give these young kids a round of applause for bringing out a nice set of feeders. I think each of these class winners definitely deserve to be here, considering the classes they came out of. I think they pretty handily won their classes. The young lady with the lighter calf to my right, this is a steer that's got a lot of future. He's got plenty of muscle. There's some things about him I really like in terms of his depth of body, for his frame and his weight, the angle to his shoulder blade. Maybe he can get a little bit sloped and hooks the pins a little bit, maybe changing a little bit the way he moves on those back two. But as it gets collected, as he gets older, that one's got a bright future. Next young lady has a heifer that's kind of in between for me. I mean, as you analyze her from a market standpoint, she could maybe use a little bit more substance, a bit more power when you get behind her. I do think she's adequate as far as that goes. This is probably the best skeletal build of anything in the ring when you analyze her spinal makeup and how her depth of body matches her frame and her weight and her condition, and how she navigates around the ring, how extended she is through her front 1/3, and like we talked in class, how nice she is in her heart girth. From a structural and composition standpoint, I really like that one. I think our next two steers are pretty comparable in their build. Both of these steers that came out of our last two classes are full of muscle when you get behind them. I think they're adequate in terms of the length of rib that they have and the spring of rib they have, the three-dimensional shape that they have. I think they're plenty extended through their front 1/3. Each of these steers I'd like to strengthen in terms of their spine, the way it ties into the top of their shoulder. One's a little better than the other in that aspect. I think when you analyze these two, if you're going to change the skunk tail one, I'd sure like to see him get around the ring a little bit better on those back two. That's something that could be corrected. He's a little bit unstable and it gets a little bit up on his pastern when you set him in motion as he goes around the ring. Again, that's something I think could be corrected in the future. Today, it's a little bit problematic for me. As we analyze your gray calf, that gives him an advantage from that standpoint when you set him in motion in terms of how he sits down his rear pasterns and how he handles his hock today, moving around the ring. So there's some give and takes out here. Certainly, there's no cookie cutter exact way to go that I think is going to fill all the boxes, but there's a lot of things, a lot of positive attributes about each of these calves that you can hang your hat on and really make a case for. To me today, I think you have a little bit of an advantage when you have this much muscle and this much power. Young man's gray steer is going to be your champion feeder calf. Congratulations.
Congratulations to Zyler Emler winning this year's Grand Champion 4-H Feeder Calf Project. We would like to ask Cole Stevens, the second place from that Class 4, into the show ring at this time for selection of Reserve Champion Feeder Calf. The Reserve Champion Feeder Calf Awards are also sponsored by Cox Farms and Produce. Congratulations to Hadley Webb for showing this year's 4-H Reserve Champion Feeder Calf. Looks like our show ring's ready for the FFA class of feeder calves. So I'd like to call them into the show ring at this time. We have two exhibitors in this class of FFA feeder calves. We have one from Showmanship and one from Skinner Miller. Okay, Judge, this is your class. This class will also determine who is the Grand Champion and Reserve Champion FFA feeder calf for this year's fair. And both of those awards are sponsored by Cox Farms and Produce.
I think this is our only feeder calf class, but we got a couple nice ones here to analyze, and I'll tell you the way I see them as quickly as I can to try to be as transparent as I can. while I'm doing that, your black steer that just walks in, this is a steer that just hits you initially like a show steer. You like the haircut that he has, you like the bone work between his joints. When you get behind him, he's got plenty of muscle in him. I think when she gets him, navigates him around the ring, if you're going to get real picky, every now and then he gets up on that pastern. Then when he hits a certain pace, he sets him down really nice. So take it for what it's worth. I think that he's moving pretty well today, all in all. You get behind him, he wants to be just maybe a nickel bow-legged. I don't know how much that affects him in the future. I think the man that takes care of these two from here on is going to determine their ceiling in terms of how they feed him and how they manage him and the amount of exercise they allow him to have and so on and so forth. This can be a tricky business. That one handled right, though, I think has a very high ceiling, and I think you can say the same for this gray calf. When he walks in the ring, the first thing, as you compare the two, that you appreciate about him is his depth of body. There's a little more center in this calf. Will that translate to him feeding better? I don't know. It sure could. I appreciate that about him. When you get behind him, he's adequate in terms of muscle, the amount of muscle that he has. Maybe with that center and his fullness, you'd like to see him a little nicer in his heart girth. Again, everything that I'm being constructive about on these two steers is very picky because they sure cover a lot of bases. I guess what the first thing I'd change about this gray steer, though, is his makeup and his hawk. When you see him move around the ring, he's a little bit limited. I realize he wasn't acting real good today for the young lady, although she's got him collected now. I'd like to clean up his hawks just a little bit. But with that said, it's a give and take with these two. I like each of these steers. I think either one of them in the right hands have a very high ceiling and a lot of potential. I think today, and it might be the way they're acting, is giving him an advantage, but I think the one that covers the most bases today for me that I would want to take home and feed would be this black steer. That'll be your champion FFA. Obviously, you reserve the gray steer. Both of these steers are nice calves. Congratulations.
Congratulations to Shelby McCormick winning this year's FFA Market Feeder Calf. Congratulations to Sierra Miller for winning this year's FFA Reserve Champion Feeder Calf. Both of these awards were sponsored by Cox Farms and Produce. It's now time to choose the 2024 Supreme Feeder Calf between the Grand Champion 4-H Feeder Calf, shown by Zyler Imler, and the Grand Champion FFA Feeder Calf, shown by Shelby McCormick. This will determine the sale order on Saturday. Following the selection of the Supreme Feeder Calf for the 2024 show season, we will take a 10-minute break before we move into our 4-H Market Beef Contest. So we will announce the Supreme winner and take a 10-minute break and continue on with our Market Beef Show.
And then his phase in is the 5th and 6th, and then he goes like for good after.
Goes for good.
Goes for good. I'm not picking you up. You're all still not perfect. And that it picked me up.
Give these exhibitors a round of applause, if you would, as we select your champion feeder calf. I don't know if they have a sale or what the plans are for these feeder calves, but if they do, I'd encourage buyers to dive into them, and if not, I encourage these kids to go forward with them, being positive, because there's sure some calves. These two calves out here, I like the best today, but there's been some calves in here that, managed right, could sure be knocking on the door and beat them within just a few months of good management. These are two different steers. There's no question about it. The young lady that just won the FFA show, that was a tough class, and two steers that you can make a case for either one of them. I just thought from a feeder calf standpoint, for this calf's what I would project his age. And with that said, I don't know the end point of these steers. I have no idea when this steer is going to need to be finished or the black steer is going to need to be finished. Obviously, he needs an earlier fair. There's no doubt about it. But just judging them for what they are, assuming their age, and I've got to wait. I think this steer balances up nice. I like I think he's just a good combination of form and function, and has a couple intangibles that you really appreciate in the show steer world in terms of his hair coat and a little additional look that he has. I like the way his chest floor sets and how extended he is from the point of his shoulder to his throat latch. As you analyze him back, he's got an adequate angle to his shoulder. Really like his bone work between his joints. I think his capacity matches his frame and his thickness and his condition really well. When you get behind him, he doesn't let you down. He's got a lot of turn to his top. He's adequate in terms of how level his spine is and how well it ties to the apex of his shoulder when you get behind him. If you're going to change this steer, again, ever so slightly when I critique these steers, it's just because I've got to find a way to separate them. Some of these are really minute changes that need to be made. I'd like to see this steer a little bit deeper in his twist. He's just a nickel bow-legged when you watch him move away from me behind. Some judges will harp on that, some won't. The way I see it today, it's not a big problem, but those are a couple small things that I'd sure like to change if I could just make him right where I wanted him to be. But with that said, this steer again has a lot of intangibles. He's got a good foot size. I like his bone work between his joints, and just a nice combination of form and function. This gray steer beat a lot of good steers today. This is a steer that I'll be the first to tell you he's not the most closed in his shoulder or the best in his heart girth, but beyond that, when you analyze him from one end to the other, he is extended through his front 1/3. The steer, for his weight and his condition and the depth of body and muscle that he has, he sure carries it well. If you analyze that steer when he walks on his pasterns and how he gets around the ring, he's got plenty of flexibility. When you get behind him, you just love the amount of true muscle that he has. You like how opened up he is from stifle to stifle. This one is plenty deep in his twist and carries his muscle good down to his lower leg. Again, if I could get kind of critique him a little bit, I'd want to close that shoulder blade up. I'd want to fill him in his heart girth a little bit. I think that today, what walked out here today, if I was going to take one home with me to either make money on or try to feed and make some in the future, it would be this black steer up front. He'll be your supreme. Congratulations.
Congratulations to Shelby McCormick from the FFA for winning this year's Supreme Feeder Calf Project. She will sell first on Saturday and determine the sell order for everyone else. Winners that we had from the feeder calf class, and that was this year's Rate of Gain Award winners. For the 4-H Rate of Gain division in the feeder calves, that winner this year goes to Cole Stevens. And the winner of your FFA Feeder Calf Rate of Gain contest this year goes to Sierra Miller. All right, I think we're ready to start this 4-H Market Beef show. We have 4 classes of 4-H Market Beef before we get to that Grand Champion drive. And so we're going to ask Class 8 of 4-H Market Beef to enter the show ring at this time. We have 2 exhibitors in this class. We have an entry from Briar Osborne. And one from Ava Rohr. Okay, Judge, this is your class.
Got a nice lightweight class to begin your fat steer show. Young lady brings us the black steer out. I think he has a distinct advantage initially when he walks in the ring in terms of condition. I think that he just perceives one that is a little better finished. He's a little better at his angles when you compare him to the white steer. I think when you get your hands on him, he doesn't let you down. That steer is going to have a good carcass for a 1,200-pound steer. Just a lot of nice combination pieces this steer in terms of amount of muscle that he has, the turn to his top, his capacity. He's a little more flexible than your gray steer today. With that said, a gray steer or your white steer, however you want to coin it, that's in second, this is a steer that has a show steer look about him. He's got a lot of muscle to him. He's got an enormous ribeye on him for one that weight. I think that what you'd have to change for him to get any higher in this class, he's got to be a little more flexible on both ends. He gets a little steep in terms of the angle to his shoulder, a little steep out of his hock. When you get your hands on him, he's not quite as finished as the black steer behind him. With that said, he does give you a nice show steer look, does have a lot of muscle, just needs more time on feed. Please give each of these kids a round of applause for a nice set of steers to begin this show.
Your results from Class 1 of 4-H Market Beef: in second place, Briar Osborne, and the winner of first class of 4-H Market Beef and advancing to the Grand Champion Drive, Miss Ava Rohr. We're now ready for our second class of 4-H Market Beef. We have 3 exhibitors in this class. We're looking for an entry from Layden Stevens, one from Heidi Brown, and one from Cheyenne Woods. Okay, Judge, this is your class.
Got a nice trio of steers to analyze in our second class. I think the young lady that wins this class wins it relatively handily in terms of the amount of muscle the steer has that she's brought out here today. I think when you get behind him, I really appreciate how deep he is in his lower leg. As you analyze him down the spine, he's got plenty of turn to his top. This is a steer that's extended enough to his front 1/3. If I was going to change him ever so slightly, I'd give him a little more angle to his front 1/3. He's a little bit steep coming off of that. But with that said, I appreciate him from there back, how he fills in his heart girth, the amount of capacity that he has in terms of to match his frame and his overall makeup and his build. He's one of the more finished steers in this class and just the best combination show steer in this class. Nice steer to begin this class. As we move on to our second place steer, this browner appearing steer, when you look at him initially, he doesn't give you the show ring eye appeal of the steer that wins the class. But with that said, this is a steer that handles relatively well. He's got some muscle to him. He's got some flexibility to him. Just doesn't give you the look and the overall power from the rear view as a steer that wins the class. But this is a nice calf in his own right. Again, I appreciate his length of body and his flexibility. As we move on to your third place steer, that's the things that I like about him as well. I think this steer is very long. I think he's flexible as he gets around the ring. Just hasn't had enough time on feet to be more competitive in this class. Please give each of these young ladies a round of applause. A nice set of steers to analyze.
The results of your second class of 4-H Market Beef: in third place, Heidi Brown; in second place, Cheyenne Woods. Winning this class of 4-H Market Beef and advancing to the Grand Champion runoff, Layden Stevens. All right, we're ready to call that third class of 4-H Market Beef into the show ring at this time. We have 4 exhibitors in this third class of 4-H Market Beef. We're looking for an entry from Aiden Cozy and one from Carolyn Woods. And Easton Hunt. And rounding out the class is Kirsten Clark. Okay, Judge, this is your class.
Got a nice set of steers to analyze here. I think you can kind of break them up in two different groups in terms of their just makeup and build and show ring look and muscle and condition. This is a tight pair for me. I think if you got a judging card and you take these top two steers, you're not going to get a big cut for placing them either way. I'm going to kind of leave them as they stand, with the steer to my right winning the class and the steer to my left in second. And it is close. Yeah, please give them a round of applause. A nice set of steers. I'll tell you the differences that I see. The young man, as I'm talking about your steer, you can go ahead and exit the ring as I'm talking about him. This is a steer. This is a nice show ring steer. I think that he's got him presented well. I think he's got a lot of nice pieces that you like in terms of the build when you get behind him. Steer's got plenty of muscle. As you look down his spine, he's got a distinct advantage in terms of the amount of ribeye that he has and a turn to his top compared to our second place steer. I think he's slightly thicker, has a little bit true muscle, and probably has an advantage when you get your hands on him. With that said, our second place steer, he gives up a little bit in the turn to his top as you analyze him down his spine. I don't think he lays at his chest floor quite as nice, but I'll be the first to admit this steer navigates around the ring better. This is a sounder steer in my mind as I'm analyzing the two. I didn't think there was enough difference in terms of their structure, the way they move around the ring to overlook the amount of muscle and the power that the steer that wins the class has as you analyze him down his spine to bring this second steer in first. Two really good steers. I think you could hang your hat on either one of those and be pretty proud of how you placed them. As we move on to our third place steer, this steer, that you have to first comment how you appreciate his depth of body almost to a fault. I like a deep body. When he's pushing the envelope, maybe you like to trim him up just a little bit as far as that goes. But if you give me the option of having one that's too deep or one that's too shallow, I always take the one that's too deep. This steer, for being that soggy middled and the weight that he's carrying, I think his spine holds together well. He feels a stride when you get him around the ring. He's got some nice intangibles in his own right. And the young lady bringing our fourth steer out, this is one that just kind of lands in the wrong class to get any higher. As you analyze him on the profile, he needs to be a little deeper in his flank in terms of how he translates from his brisket back. This steer does have some muscle. He's got some flexibility, just doesn't have the look in the ring to get any higher in this class. Please give him another round of applause. Nice class to analyze.
Your results from this third class of 4-H Market Beef: in fourth place, Caroline Woods; in third place, Kirsten Clark; in second place, Easton Hunt; and winning this class of 4-H Market Beef and advancing to the Grand Champion Drive, Aiden Cozy. We're now ready for our last class of 4-H Market Beef. We have 4 exhibitors in this last class. We're looking for an entry from Grayson Howard, Bailey Miller, Dominic Webb, and Hadley Webb. Okay, Judge, this is your class. Might want to give a round of applause to Hadley Webb. She is this year's rate of gain winner for your 4-H Market Beef Division. Congratulations, Hadley.
What a nice set of steers and to wrap up your 4-H division. I think that when you initially see these steers, you just kind of got to make two breaks. I think you can pick similarities in the pair of smoke steers and similarities in these black steers. I don't really know how a guy could mix and match them and justify it. Before we start analyzing them, I really want to commend you guys in this heavier division. You really picked up the pace. You could go 4 deep in here and find a steer that is going to be competitive at a lot of shows. I just think this is the toughest class of the day. I'll analyze them, and if you would, as I'm talking about your calf, go ahead and exit the ring. I'll analyze them and try to be as transparent as I can with how I placed them, where I placed them. There's some differences from one end to the other, but the quality is very high in this class. To me, the young lady that wins this class, I just think this is the most complete steer in the class. I like this steer when you get your hands on him. He doesn't bother me at all in terms of the amount of condition he has on that 13th rib. I think when you analyze him on the profile, you really appreciate one that's this weight, that can hold his spine together the way he does. I just think he's really good in the center portion of his spine. Steer's going to have a big ribeye on him. When you get behind him, he's plenty good enough in terms of amount of muscle that he has. And again, on the side profile, it has a distinct advantage in terms of how he balances from his foreflank to his hind flank, and just really smooth in that pattern. When you take him from his pin set to the top of his shoulder blade and get a 3/4 view of him, you just really have to appreciate how smooth he is. He's extended enough to his front 1/3. Again, the best combination of form and function within this class. As we move on to our second place steer, I think that when they're standing still from the shoulders back, these two steers are too similar to separate within this class. This is a steer that has plenty of body. He's got plenty of muscle when you get behind him. Where I would change him is on all 4 wheels. I think the longer he's out there, the more he shows probably his faults in terms of the way he puts his front 2 in the ground. He can go a little forward on his knee. He can be a little bit narrow as he walks away from you in terms of the way he handles his back 2. With that said, I don't mind the condition on that steer. I really appreciate the amount of muscle that he has. And again, I think he closely follows our class winner within these 4 steers better than any steer in the class. Young lady that's bringing out our heavy steer, this is a steer that has a lot of nice pieces. I think when you compare him to the 2 in front of him, maybe doesn't balance out quite as well in terms of his condition today. I'm not going to say that he's ideal when you get your hands on him. Young lady's done a great job feeding him, though, probably to a fault. When you get your hands on him, I'd probably like to have backed him off a little bit. Steer's got plenty of muscle. He's got plenty of look. Just doesn't quite give you the balance and eye appeal, the 2 that win the class, in terms of how he holds himself together in the center of his spine and his condition to beat those 2. That's a really nice calf. That's a testament to this fair, bringing out a 3rd place steer that looks like that. I could say the same for the young man with the 4th place steer. This steer is just as thick when you get behind him as any steer in the class. Where he probably separates himself is when you set him into motion. He's not quite as true on those hocks as he gets around the ring. He struggles on those back two. And for his weight and his frame and his scale, I'd like to drop him a little bit in his flank when you analyze him on a profile compared to the steers that win this class. Just see him balance out a little bit better there. But this is an awful good steer. I like to see him collected a little more as you set him on the move. Maybe handle a little bit fresher if you could change him ever so slightly. But again, a fourth place steer that looks like that, this is a really nice class. Please give each of them a round of applause for a nice set of steers.
Your results for this last class of 4-H Market Beef: in fourth place, Dominic Webb; in third place, and also the winner of this year's 4-H Market Beef Rate a Gain Award, that goes to Hadley Webb; in second place, Grayson Howard; and winning this last class of 4-H Market Beef and advancing to the final drive, Bailey Miller. It is time for that 4-H Grand Champion Market Beef Drive, and we're going to ask the winners from the 4 classes of Market Beef to enter the show ring, and we'd like to ask the second place calves in each of those classes to remain close by in the makeup ring. So we'd like to ask that winner from Class 8 of 4-H Market Beef, Ava Rohr. We'd like to see the winner from Class 9 of 4-H Market Beef, Layden Stevens. We'd like to see the winner from Class 10, Aiden Cozy. And the winner from Class 11, Bailey Miller. Okay, Judge, this is your class for selection of our Grand Champion 4-H Market Beef. This award is sponsored by Cox Farms and Produce.
If you would, please give these class winners a round of applause. It's been a nice steer show up to this point. Like we said in the feeder calf show, each of these representatives of their individual classes, I think they definitely deserve to be out here. A young lady with your light calf, that's a nice complete steer. I think that he wins that class easy and definitely deserves to be out here. A lot of nice pieces of that steer. Young lady with the next black steer, he wins his class pretty handily just in terms of amount of muscle that he has and top. Young man that comes out of your third place class, I think you can say the same for him. I think he had a little bit of advantage in terms of the turn to his top and the amount of ribeye this calf has and the thickness that he has, and he balanced out a little better. And from foreflank to hind flank and the way he handled, that one beat an awful good steer in that class. That was a really nice class. The steer moved a little better, just gave up a little bit of power to get any higher within that class, and say the same for the last class. I think that was a really deep class, really 4 deep in my mind. So that's a testament to your county. I mean, these last 2 classes being as tough as they were. Young lady's smoke steer was awfully complete in that class, and he looks awfully complete in this final drive. 4 nice ones to analyze, and I was here last year, and I enjoyed it, and I'm enjoying it this year. I will say I think it's a little deeper than it was last year in a couple of these classes, and that's a testament to you guys. This thing's hard. I don't know how many in the audience raised fat steers are involved in this, but the ones that are know that this is a tough business. You got a year and a half wrapped up in most of these deals, and you talk about things that can go wrong. A lot of times, the cattle can come off feed. There can be structure issues that pop up. A lot of things that, as far as their attitudes, and just a lot of different bunny trails these steers can go down to make life hard, and it's no easier up here analyzing them. Initially a judge can really only make one person happy. and you don't have a silver bullet when you're up here looking at them. Yeah, I'd like one to walk in that's just perfect, that's fit right, has the right amount of muscle and the right amount of finish and structurally sound. Make my job easy, but you never have the perfect one walk in. The guy that taught me about cattle when I was younger, he told me if you ever see that one, to call him. He doesn't care where he's at. He wants to come see him when I find that perfect one. And obviously he's never got that call. But with that said, there's been a lot of quality come out here. Again, I've really enjoyed this. Some fairs I judge a couple years and they want to have me back a third. Some years I judge and they never want to see me again. But I'm gonna do my best to transmit how I'm seeing these cattle and give you a good indication of why I picked them, and why I put them where they were, and how I broke down the individual classes. And I just want to compliment each of you exhibitors, the parents involved, the family, and the people putting the fair on. You guys have done an excellent job, and just to rebuild this quick with what you guys went through, that's just wonderful seeing that kind of support. And Mrs. Webb coming out here and helping. I was thinking, I've done this forever. I feel like a carny man, but I've been to a lot of fairs and a lot of state fairs, and I can only think of 2 other times I've seen a senator come and actually be involved with the youth and in the livestock, and both of those were state fairs. So to have Mrs. Webb come and represent and help and support, you guys are really blessed to have her here. And please just give her a quick round of applause. That's nice that she would volunteer her time, because I'm sure she's got plenty on her plate. I'll try to not ramble on too long. You guys know that the heat's coming, but I don't want to do you an injustice and be short either. Hats off to each of you. This has been a really nice show. Better set of kids to work with. I really appreciate the people that I've met in this county. I've been in and out of this county for several years, and you see a common thread everywhere you go. Last week I was somewhere in Maryland, and I was in Ohio yesterday, and I'm going to Pennsylvania tomorrow. And you talk about the salt of the earth people, the people that are involved specifically in this industry, and I'm sure it's the same in every breed or every species, but just the best people. They realize what it takes the amount of work that it takes to put food on the table and support the country. And it's just, as far as I'm concerned, this group of people are the backbone of this country, and I got a lot of respect for each and every one of you that take the time to be involved with this. It's certainly not the most rewarding at sometimes, and very hard and challenging, but boy, I'm thankful to be involved in this. With that said, I'm going to shut up and pick the steer that's came out here today that's hit me pretty hard, just from a standpoint of form and function and kind of tying everything together. Really, really acceptable today from a show ring eye appeal standpoint. But with that said, one that has plenty of muscle. I think when you get your hands on him, he feels well. I think he navigates around the ring well, and I think if you just put everything in the pot, shake it up, he comes out with the most attributes. With that said, your most complete steer that's come out here today is this smoke that the young lady had on the far end. Congratulations, he'll be your champion.
Congratulations to Bailey Miller, this year's Grand Champion 4-H Market Beef Showman. That award is sponsored by Cox Farms and Produce. We would like to ask Grayson Howard to come into the show ring for selection of Reserve Champion 4-H Market Beef.
There's your champion. As we're looking at your reserves, I think that there's a give and take on, to me, it comes down to steer out of your third class and your second to that champion. I think there's give and takes on these 2 steers, 2 nice steers, and I really think it was a 4-steer race in my mind in terms of the whole show. I think the 2 steers that were first and second in your third, and the steers that were first and second in your 4th class, to me, those were the 4 steers of the show. And there were steers beyond that I sure liked awful well, but there's no doubt in my mind those were the 4 best steers. I guess as you break this down, there's give and takes each way, and you know, you can't make too many arguments in some areas for these calves, but I think one thing's for sure, there's an awful lot of similarities, specifically from the shoulder back and the condition and the muscle of those 2 gray ones to separate them. Young man, you'll be reserved. Congratulations to each and every one of you.
Congratulations to Grayson Howard for showing this year's Reserve Champion 4-H Market Beef. This award is sponsored by Cox Farms and Produce. Since Bailey Miller was your 4-H Grand Champion, was showing your 4-H Grand Champion Market Beef, and this is a homegrown calf. That negates the reason to have Class 13, and therefore Bailey Miller will also win this year's 4-H Greenup County Class Market Steer Award. All right, we're ready for this single class of FFA Market Beef. We have 3 exhibitors in this class of FFA Market Beef. We have an entry from Sierra Miller, Carly Marshall, and Brooklyn Green. Okay, Judge, this is your class. Selection of the winner in this class will be your Grand Champion FFA Market Beef and also Reserve FFA Market Beef. Probably need to give a round of applause to Brooklyn Green. She is this year's FFA Market Beef Rate of Gain Award winner. Congratulations, Brooklyn Green. And can we also give a round of applause for Josh DeLauder? He's been back there working the makeup ring and the swing gate. We really appreciate him keeping us organized, trying something new out with our show ring setup, and he's made it work this morning at the beef show.
This is a nice FFA division of steers. I think that they kind of separate themselves as you analyze them, specifically when you get behind them and get your hands on them. This painted, chromed up steer that wins the class, I think that he's got a distinct advantage when you get behind him. He's opened up at the ground. He's true in his muscle shape in terms of the turn to his top and how deep he is in his lower leg. I just think he's got an advantage from that standpoint. Just opened up at the ground a little better compared to his contemporaries. When the young lady gets him parked, he sure gives you a nice show ring, eye-appealing look, extended through his front 1/3. I don't mind the angle to his shoulder. I'd maybe like to see him set him down a little softer on the back too, but that one, when he decides to cooperate and give you a nice look, you really have to appreciate that, his show ring presence. As we move on to our second place steer, I just think as you compare him to the white-legged steer that wins the class, just a little more frail in his overall design in terms of how opened up he is at the ground compared to the steer that wins the class. He's a little narrower based, doesn't quite have the bone work and bone foot size as the steer that wins the class. Gives up a little bit of muscle when you get behind him. I appreciate his profile, how level spined he is, how he balances out in his just not quite as much to get any higher in this class. As we move on to your third place steer, this is one when you get your hands on him, he's probably a little bit beyond where I would want to see him in terms of the finish that he has on him. When you look at him on the profile, he doesn't balance out quite as well in his chest floor up to his throat latch compared to his contemporaries within this class. That's a nice calf, though, to come in third. Testament to how good these classes have been. Congratulations to each of you. Please give these young ladies a round of applause.
Your results from your FFA Market Beef Show. In third place, Carly Marshall. In your Reserve Champion Market Beef, shown by Sierra Miller. And that award sponsored by Foggy Morning Farms. And the winner of this year's Grand Champion FFA Market Beef Contest and the rate of gain for FFA Market Beef this year goes to Brooklyn Green. For selection of Supreme Market Beef, and so we would like that Grand Champion 4-H Market Beef shown by Bailey Miller to come into the show ring to square off against that Grand Champion FFA Market Beef shown by Brooklyn Green to determine who is the Supreme Market Beef for this year's show and fair and who will sell first on Saturday. Following following selection of our Supreme Market beef, we will be taking a 10-minute recess before we move into Showmanship, just to give everybody a heads up for how we're going to play the rest of this afternoon. And also this evening, we've got the poultry show and the rabbit show. Poultry is at 4 p.m. and the rabbit show is at 5 p.m. And don't forget during intermission to visit our t-shirt stand located on the opposite side of the show barn. Pick you up a good deal there. And donuts are still available in the back.
As we wrap up your steer show, I guess I did my talk for the 4-H division, so I'm not gonna bend your ear and get up here and talk a whole lot more. But I do want to comment on these steers, and I'll be the first to admit that these two steers are different as night and day in terms of their build and their look and just the way they're made. But where they're good, I think they're really good. We talk about this black and white steer. When you get behind him, I love the shape that he gives you. He's one that's got a really good quarter on him. He carries it down well. He's opened up the ground as he navigates away from me. He's got some true base width, huge sirloin on him. He's long spined, and I think he gives you a nice look when the young lady gets him set up. He looks like a show. He's really extended through his front 1/3. I like his bone work between his joints. Completely different than the steer that won the 4-H division, but like I said, where he's good, he's really good. As we move on to the smoke steer that came out of your larger 4-H division, this is one, and he's kind of getting tired and hot today, but boy, when he gets collected, you really appreciate the form and function that this calf exhibits today. Excuse me, he's got plenty of muscle when you get behind him. I think he's got, he's got plenty of turn to his top. One thing where he really excels, I think, is his capacity and his smoothness and his profile. I think he balances out well from foreflank to hind flank. I think for kind of being the one that's built the way he is, I think he carries it well. I think he's plenty extended from the point of his shoulder forward. Just a really nice combination steer. Today, with what's walked in the ring, I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that that's our best steer we've seen today. Congratulations, he'll be your Supreme Champion.
Congratulations to Bailey Miller for showing this year's Supreme Market beef. She will sell first on Saturday. All right, we are ready to start this beef showmanship contest, and to begin things, we're going to start with one class of Clover Bud beef showmen, and we're looking for 4 exhibitors in that class of Clover Buds. We're looking for Chloe Pope, Brylan McGinnis, Jensen Cox, and Wyatt Stevens. Okay, Judge, this is your class. I'd like to remind you that KB Media will be here taking pictures, and you can purchase those online. And so she's been a good hand in the show ring as well, but that is KB Media, Kilo Bravo, on social media, or you can come up to the desk here and we will give you a business card to take home. Just a reminder to all 4-H and FFA exhibitors, Daniel's Farm and Feed Supply has a trailer located out back of the pig barn. And also, if you come up to the stage, there are 20% coupons that are good at both their trailer out back of the pig barn and also at their in-store location. And so that is good through this week. So if you need any show supplies, we appreciate them making those more affordable. And there are still donuts available, sponsored by Master. Electrical Contracting LLC. So if you're one of the show families and you haven't grabbed one of these sent from Heaven donuts, don't forget to do that before you leave.
All right, for everybody here that's watching this Clover Bud division, would you please give these kids a round of applause? These youngsters are doing a good job. We had 2 come out with helpers and 2 come out by themselves. I like seeing both of that. I like seeing the young ones that are confident enough to come out by their own and have their animal broke well enough, but I also love to see it when they come out and they have a helper, when they have somebody that's willing to spend the time with them and be there and help them if they need it and kind of teach them as they go through this. I'm not asked to place Clover Buds, and I'm really thankful for that. I just give out 4 blue ribbons, but I really enjoy seeing these young ones come out, and just a little piece of advice, if you 2 young ladies and 2 young men can hear me, just remember when you're showing that half of your attention goes to the judge. You always want to know where the judge is, and that's me today, and then half the attention to your calf. And that's kind of the foundation of showing. And if you have time, come out here and watch the senior show and try to pick up some pointers. Your guys' foundation is really good, though. I think all of you at some point in time have made eye contact. All of you have been smooth in your transitions from walking to standing, and I think you guys got a lot to look forward to in the future. This will be a fun group to watch develop. I love seeing their interest in the cattle, and they've done a good job getting these cattle broke to come out here and show at this age division. Please give them another round of applause. A nice class of Clover Buds.
Congratulations to that first class of Clover Buds. We had Chloe Pope, Rylan McGinnis, Jensen Cox, and Wyatt Stevens. Okay, I think we're ready for that first class of Junior Beef Showman. We have 4 exhibitors in this second class, and we had a couple scratches if you're following along on your show bill. But at this time, we would like to ask those 4 exhibitors into the show ring at this time. We're looking for Zyler Imler, Charlie McGinnis, Jace Keys, and Jackson McGinnis. Okay, Judge, this is your first class of Junior Showman. We'd ask that the second class of Junior Showman to head to the makeup ring at this time.
It's a nice class to begin your junior showmanship class, and from what I've seen, the brief time we've been out here setting these up, it is kind of a race that you don't want to get in too big of a hurry being in, but I know that doesn't make sense. But the quickest to get to their spot and do the least amount of things wrong and give you the least opportunities to get a bad look at your animal, whoever can do that is usually going to surface to the top. And I think the quickest to be on point and just do the basic fundamentals is the young lady in front of me with the baldy heifer. You'll come back for the final drive here in a minute. And there's 4 classes, so I'm just going to bring her back. The 2 young men on each side of her are awful close. If I bring 3 out each class, that'll be 12, and that'll probably be too many out here. But there's a couple things that I think that hopefully I can give you guys from an advice standpoint that'll help you in the future for next year. Young man with the gray steer, I just think you need more time in the ring. I like when you do lock in and make good eye contact, and I like your eye contact now, for example, but you need to remember to balance it with your calf. his feet were out of place. You had good eye contact, your posture was good, your arm extension was good. To try to balance that out a little better with taking a double check at your steer and make sure his feet are right while you're making that eye contact. So it's kind of a balance that you need to kind of toe the line. You want good eye contact, but you don't want too much eye contact where you're not being aware of how his feet are. And you'll learn that as you show more. You'll feel it in your hand. When he moves, you'll know to look. You can feel it in their head a lot of times. Early on, I thought you got a little complacent with your eye contact, especially when you was walking your steer. Kind of lost the judge at times. But there are a lot of things you're doing right. Again, your posture, your arm extension, your transitions from standing to walking have been good. How you transition from the holder and the show stick. A lot of the same things for this young man. I like your demeanor. I think that whatever you show in the future, I think your animal's going to respond well to you. You're calm, but you're still authoritative with him. You do a nice job. Just your overall mannerisms out here. I think there's a couple subtle things I'd like to see you change in the future from a showmanship standpoint. A little better eye contact throughout the show. You know, initially early on, you was completely focused on your calf. Right now, you're completely focused on me. I'd like to see a little better balance. Instead of just being focused on your calf, every now and then check on the judge while you're showing throughout the show. And when you're setting your calf up, every now and then check in and just try to walk that line a little better with having good eye contact and being aware of your animal. I'd like to see you have a little more arm extension as you get older. That'll be easier as you get older and stronger to step yourself out just a little bit, put yourself in a position where you can analyze those feet a little better. Just a little better balance, especially from eye contact and being aware of how your calf needs to be. You do a lot of things right, though, in terms of your demeanor. I like your posture. I just think that the cattle that you show in the future are going to respond well to you. Next young man, I just think that you need more time in the ring. And the biggest advice I could give you today is come back out and watch his senior drive or the champion junior drive and listen to some of the pointers. I just think you need more experience in the ring as far as your technique. If you learn to mimic the kids that win the showmanship today, you'll climb right up the line in showmanship, I promise you. Please give him another round of applause. A nice class of juniors.
Congratulations to the junior showmen, Zyler Imler, Jace Keys, Jackson McGinnis, and most of all, Charlie McGinnis, who will make it to the junior showmanship runoff. Congratulations, Charlie. We're now ready for this next class of junior showmen. We have 5 exhibitors in this class. We're looking for an entry from Cheyenne Woods, James Ray Hall III, Sadie Rohr, Layden Stevens, and Brevin Pope. Okay, Judge, this is your class.
As we move on to your second class of juniors, I'm going to kind of follow format until I see a reason to change it. Initially, just looking in here again, the first impressions are huge. The kid that does the most things right, the quickest, without looking like they're in a hurry, is going to win or climb to the top pretty quick. I think the young lady that's covered the most bases, or the junior showing his young lady in front of me, you'll be coming back for that final drive here in a minute. Congratulations. Now, in terms of the 4 that are left, I'd like to leave you with a little bit of advice, the best I can, and hopefully help you as you show in showmanship in the future and here next year. Young lady to my right, I think that something that would help you as well as a lot of kids that I've seen come out here. You do a lot of things good. You're calm, you're collected. That steer is just as tame as he can be. He's sitting there licking his nose. That tells me you've done a good job at home. I think that you have your everything in the right hand. You have your halter in the right hand and your show stick in the right hand. You've done a lot of things right out here. The one thing that would help you a lot in the future in terms of showmanship is just make sure that you're confident in where you need to go before you get in here, and that'll help you a lot. And I'm not just speaking to you today. I'm speaking to several kids. You should know before you come in, even if you're in the first class of the day, ask somebody around the ring, where do I go? No. And again, I'm not just talking to you. It's happened all day. But if you know where you're going before you get in here, it makes your life a lot easier. You just go to that point and then you do your showmanship. So that's something that will really help you in the future. But I think you do a good job. Again, I appreciate your demeanor and how calm your steer is. Like I said, I can tell that you've spent some time with him. He seems comfortable with you. Your hand transitions have been well, but that's one pointer that I think will help you a lot in the future to begin with. Young man, I just think you need a little more time in the ring and a little more practice with those transitions from standing to walking in terms of switching hands with show halter and show stick. That's the first thing that I would change about the way you show. I like your posture. You've had good eye contact. I can tell you want to do well, and just having the initiative is half the battle, and I can tell you've got that. You just need more practice in those transitions with your hand, and then from there I just think you'll start getting better. With the market heifer, I think you do a lot of things well. I like where you're positioning your body right now. You listened to me well earlier. You went ahead and turned your body the right way. Your heifer holds her head up naturally well, and every time I looked, half the time she had slack in her halter, so you're getting away with something there. That's because you've done a good job at home teaching her to hold her head up, but really you always want a little bit of tension on that halter, keeping her head up while you're rubbing her belly, a little more awareness of how the feet need to be. Right now your eye contact is awesome. Her feet are off a little bit. Same thing with this young man. At the end, you had really good eye contact. Your positioning wasn't bad, but you kind of let the feet go wherever they wanted a couple times. I think some little subtle changes there will help you a lot. I'd like to see you have a little more extension. You're stronger. You're somebody that can have a little more extension with your arm, which will separate you out. For example, when you're walking, you're pretty close to her head. That's a good time to get the back of your heel stepped on, or some cattle just don't like that. They like to have a little bit of separation from their head, and if you do that when you're standing still with your left hand, create a little more separation, it'll put you in a better position to analyze her feet and see where they need to go. So hopefully there's some little things you guys can build on. Nice class of showmanship, excellent set of kids. Please give him another round of applause.
Congratulations to that class of junior showmen: Cheyenne Woods, James Ray Hall III, Sadie Rohr, Brevin Pope, and specifically Layden Stevens, who will be advancing to the junior showmanship runoff. We're now ready for our third heat of junior showmen. We now have 3 exhibitors in this class of junior showmen. We're now down to 2 entries in this class of junior showmen. We have Miss Eva Wireman facing off against Caroline Woods.
Just 2 in this class, but initially I really appreciate the intensity these 2 young ladies have. You both have come out here being aware of your surroundings and really appearing like you really want to win. And again, like we said earlier, your intent, seeing that drive and attention to showmanship is in the drive to want to win is half the battle. If you come out here like you don't care, it's sure easy to beat a kid like that when they come out here and they don't act like they care about it. Both of you have really come out here with intention to want to win, I think. I'm going to bring the young lady back with the big steer for that final drive here in a minute. And the young lady to my right, I just thinking a few more tweaks in your technique, specifically with your arm, whichever hand you're holding your heifer with. So when you're walking, use right next to her head and have your elbow against her jaw. I'd like to see you learn to have a little more extension there. It's just a more comfortable place to be. It's more comfortable for the animal, and it allows you to be in a better position from a showmanship standpoint. A couple times the feet were kind of off there a minute ago. You had good eye contact, but you dropped the ball a little bit for that. Once you learn to extend your arm a little bit, pay a little more attention to the feet placement, you're going to be really competitive. Please give these young ladies a round of applause, and we'll see you back here in a minute.
Congratulations to that class of juniors, Eva Wireman and specifically Caroline Woods, who will be advancing to the junior showmanship runoff. Okay, I think we're ready for that last class of junior showmanship. Before we have that junior showmanship runoff, we have 4 exhibitors now in this last class of junior showman. We're looking for Ava Rohr, Bailey Miller, Briar Osborne, and Hadley Webb. Okay, Judge, this is your class.
I think this is probably the toughest showmanship class of the junior division. I think each of these individuals done a nice job out here. I'm from the brief amount of time I've been able to analyze the showmanship. I'm gonna bring 2 back. I'm gonna bring the young lady with the steer and the young lady with the smoke steer in the middle back here in a minute. I know that'll make 5, but I don't think that's too many in that final drive. The 2 that aren't coming back, it was really close for you. There's a couple subtle changes that I would have done to allow you to come back with the two young ladies that are. One time I lost you when you made the turn and you're going away from the ring. One, you was a little bit distracted on where to go. So you always want to know where you're going before you come in the ring. And I'll give a little explanation of why we're doing it as we are. As you're growing up, a lot of instructors tell you never to turn the calf towards you. And I realize the way we're set up that you have to make this first turn towards you. I don't know if that's the best way to do it. I know that the big shows that I go to and guys that know more than I know, that's how they have them walk. So that's another reason to have good arm extension from your calf. When you got to bring him around and make this turn to your left, you want to have some arm extension that is less chance of them stepping on you or getting on top of you. And it allows a good look as you make that turn. You want to go right behind the cattle that are here so that judge can get a good look of the cattle walking away from you. If you go too far this way, it's too hard to make that turn to come back up the rail. So a little more awareness of where you need to be when you come in the ring. So you're stopping here and going right down the center, and you have to be over this way far enough to make that turn to come on the rail. If you get out in here, it's too hard to make that turn. That's getting really picky because you do a lot of things well. Your posture's good, your eye contact's good, your feet placement for the most part has been good. I caught them off a couple times, so if I was going to change a little bit, I think you're a little bit heavy on the eye contact, but I like the eye contact. I just like to see a little better balance with the feet placement. Hopefully that wasn't too much. I mean, those are a couple things. What you do good, you do really good. Young man that's in the third hole here, initially your arm placement's the biggest thing I'd change. You're old enough and strong enough, you can separate yourself out a little bit, a 45-degree angle from the point of his left shoulder. That'll help you some. You get a little close to his head when you're standing still, and when you're walking, you're a little bit close. I'd like to see you separate yourself a little bit. I thought initially you got a little bit close to the rail here as you was stopping. There's some little things that you could have picked up from the girls in front of you, behind you. If you pay attention to them showing, they're kind of aware of where they need to stop, and they make their transition with the hand before they get there. They don't wait till they get there to do it, and that's a big plus. That helps them elevate their showmanship skills a little more. But probably your arm placement's the biggest thing that I would change in terms of where you position your body. Yeah, right now you're at a 45-degree angle. I bet where you was standing, you probably couldn't see his back feet. Get out there a little bit, and it'll help your showmanship a lot. So please give him all a round of applause. I know the young ladies exit, but give him all a round of applause if you would. And you two can stay. This is the fourth class, so you guys can stay here.
All right, nice class of junior showman. That was Ava Rohr and Briar Osborne. And staying in for the junior showmanship runoff, we have Bailey Miller and Hadley Webb. We're going to ask those other winners from the previous junior showmanship classes to enter the show ring for our junior showmanship runoff. Let's have that winner from that first class, Charlie McGinnis. The winner from that second class, Layden Stevens. And the winner from that third class, Caroline Woods. The winner of this class will face off against the senior 4-H beef showman to see who's going to take home the Harold Rice Trophy and who also will advance to the round robin show of showmen on Thursday.
Please give these young ladies a round of applause. A nice class of showmanship. Junior division just gets tougher and tougher. Seems like everywhere you go, and this is if you watch out here, you can see why. I think that if you look at these, if you watch this class of showmanship, the longer you watch it, probably the harder it'll be. I'll tell you, I'll try to go down the line real quick and show you some subtle changes that I would make. I think the young lady with the baldy heifer to my right now you've got her right. You got her looking good eye contact, head up, judge's side, hind leg back. Prior to this, early on, I thought there's a few times where you was a little abrupt in your movements, a little bit quick in your transitions. There's a few times she was kind of pushing you around a little bit. I think you could have toned that down a little bit. I think you was a little bit uptight maybe, and I think that might have fed off into her. Right now, what you're doing, everything you're doing, for the most part, everything you're doing is spot on. Early on, I thought in class you was a little bit abrupt in your movements. I'd like to just calm you down just a little bit, a little more subtle in your movements. Don't be afraid to be as quick as you are, but a little more subtle and smooth in terms of your overall transitions and movements as you show in showmanship. And I know your dance partner has to cooperate too. She's making it a little bit harder on you today, but that's something a subtle change that I would make that would really boost your showmanship skills, I think. Next young lady that came out of the second class, you do things well. You're another one that I would compliment your demeanor. You have a calm demeanor, and I think that'll serve you well, especially in a showmanship standpoint. A couple subtle changes. When you took your steer and set him into motion and went down the center of the ring, don't forget to go ahead and check back with the judge a little more often than you did. I don't know that I caught any eye contact when you went down the center of the ring. All judges have their preferences on where you position your body. On the profile, I'd like to see you, for example, the way not face me as much as turn at an angle, a little more an angle like you just did. There's a few times you get a little squarer on the profile where I'd rather see you at an angle like that. You're in a better position not to obstruct the judge's view, and you're in a better position to analyze the feet structure on them. That's a subtle change. You do a lot of things right. Next young lady, I think probably the number one thing that I would suggest in the future is just be a little quicker to get on point. It took you longer to get yours set up, and when you did stop, he's not right all the time. Does that make sense? Like right now, I'd like to see that judge's side hind leg back and yours forward. Once you get that right, then lock in and make your eye contact. Does that make sense? And I know they got to cooperate too, but don't be afraid to use your free hand, your left hand, when you're setting him up too. You want that hind leg to come forward, just tug forward a little bit. But a little quicker to get him where he needs to be would sure help you within this drive, because this has been tough all the way through. Next young lady, you've got your steer about right now. One thing early on that I would have changed when you was standing side by side, I would have closed up your stance with your free hand. You had, when you was rubbing his brisket, you had your show stick out here a little bit. You did collect it after a while. You gathered yourself and held it in a more contained area, and you fixed that. But initially, you had it out here at kind of at an awkward position. Like I said, right now he's not bad. There a minute ago when I was really making my final decision on showmanship, he didn't have his judge's side hind leg back. They were square, and 9 out of 10 animals look better on the profile if you can get that judge's side hind leg back. Most of the time, dip their loin a shade, and you got comfortable. He was standing square, he wasn't right, and you went ahead and accepted that, made eye contact, and went to the belly. When you're showing, when you make eye contact with the judge and go ahead to the belly or the brisket or whatever you're rubbing on your animal, make sure that when you lock in on that eye contact, your animal's right. And I thought maybe you dropped the ball a little bit there. You do a lot of things good. I really like your intensity. Your transitions are good. Steer's not helping you any today. If I weighed what he did and I was black, I would be acting the same way or worse. But that's just in showmanship. That'll hurt you sometimes. It's nothing. It's not your fault. It's just a tough break sometimes when they don't want to cooperate as well. Next young ladies, we get down the line. Like I said, in showmanship, this is my opinion. I guess that's what I'm getting paid for today, whether you agree with it or not. But I'm going to do my best to translate what I'm seeing. When a judge is looking at a steer, whether it's a show or showmanship, when that kid's locked in and quits and makes eye contact and puts a stick on the calf, what do they look like? Right now, he's giving you a hard time. Throughout the show and showmanship, the majority of the time, when I got to look at your calf, like right now, it looked like he's at the backdrop. There's a couple little things I might have changed initially when you was in this corner, but it wasn't enough to really harp on, because you do a lot of things good. Your intensity's good. I like your positioning. like I said, every time I get a look at your steer, he looks like he's at the backdrop. You got the front square at a 90-degree down. You got the judge's side back. His head is right. Half the time you have his ears up. I think with these young ladies, which is interesting, there's no boys out here, and I am partial. I'll tell you that right now. I've got 6 daughters, so when it comes to splitting hairs, a girl has an advantage. I'm not afraid to use a young man if he shows like you girls either. But that's interesting. Hats off to you young ladies. With that said, very very few mistakes. I think that there's just the little subtle things I would change with you is too subtle to discourage the way you're showing. Your intensity's right. I just don't get a very bad look at your steer very often. You have him right 99% of the time, and for that reason, you'll be the champion shower. Congratulations. Nice job.
Congratulations to Bailey Miller, this year's 4-H Junior Champion Showman. She will advance to the runoff against the senior 4-H winner to see who is taking home that Harold Rice Trophy and competing in the round robin Show of Showmen event on Thursday. This Showmanship Barn Card Award is sponsored by Matt and Micah Grayson from Foggy Morning Farms. I think it's time to call in that one class of 4-H Senior Beef Showmen. We have 4 exhibitors in this single class of Senior 4-H Beef Showmen. We're looking for exhibitors Ella Stone, Kirsten Clark, Aiden Cozy, and Ella Howard. Okay, Judge, this is your class.
These kids have been out here a lot, and you're probably tired of clapping. Boy, I'd appreciate it if you give him a round of applause. They've earned it today. Coming out here in this heat, and a lot of these cattle have been out here 2 and 3 times already, but they've done a great job. I haven't placed them yet in my mind, but I was going to talk them real quick. Young lady in the pink to my right, I think that initially early on, I'd like to see a little more eye contact. It was hard for me to get a look and know that you was aware of where I was in the ring. You just need to always be aware of where the judge is. I learned at a show I was at not too long ago, I try to wear a bright shirt. There was a young lady that was legally blind that was showing, and she was so appreciative of wearing a bright shirt so she could find me out there. And I thought, judges really need to. They don't need to blend into the other people around. They need to be easy to find. Hopefully when you're showing, the judge is easy to find, and you can constantly check in with him. And you wonder why you hear eye contact all the time. One of the reasons for that is if you're at a show and there's a lot of cattle and the judge is, he's judging cattle for 6 or 8 hours and he's ready to start pulling them and you're not paying attention, number one, you slow the show up. Number two, that's a negative in the judge's mind. It could cost you a spot in the show. If he's ready to go and wanting to pull yours out and he gives you an ample amount of time, you're not paying attention, he might grab the next one and you just lost a spot, premiums or something like that. So there is a reason for that. Just makes everything go smoother. With that said, I think you need to be a little more aware of your animal you're showing. There's a few times you really could have got him collected up. You kind of let him get out of whack, and you just knowing the cattle better, just get his front end collected, just knowing what you're showing would help you some. Those two things will help you a bunch in showmanship. Next young man, your biggest problem in showmanship is your hand that's holding, whichever hand's holding the halter. A lot of times you're doing this most of the time, and that's a little distracting when you're trying to analyze the animal. When you're walking him, if you're always shaking it, you're a little bit too far from his head. I think that would help you to collect that down to about 6 inches, give you a little more control of his head. That's just too much leeway for him. That's part of your problem. The other part is he's just not cooperating real well. So that's something, the way you handle your hand holding the halter, you improve that, you do a good job. You improve that, that's going to make it, you'll be doing even better. I'd like to see, this isn't a suggested way to stand and hold one. I'd like to see you get closer to his head and step out a little bit and hold him more with an arm extended. That will help your showmanship a bunch. And I know he's not cooperating, but those are little subtle changes that I think would really elevate your showmanship skills. To me, with that said about the two on the lower end, the two young ladies to my left, I've had a real hard time separating them. I think that you hardly make any mistakes. The only thing that would have changed on the profile, always remember to put that judge's side hind leg back. You had him set square, which is good which is just fine when they're parallel, but on the profile, you always want to make an effort to put that judge's side hind leg back. You've had a good balance though of your eye contact, your posture, your transitions. You've been aware of how you wanted your steer. I would have changed that little difference, but everything else I kind of think you do a lot of things right. I think you have a good balance, as well as the next young lady with the white steer. They're just little subtle things that I see as you show. For the most part, I don't want to get too critical on either one of you the way you're showing. Probably your posture sometimes you'll get your feet separated or in a different position. If you can just get collected about shoulder width apart and be a little more parallel with your posture, little subtle changes. I don't want to get too picky with you two. I thought you two have done a great job out here. Those are little changes that I've seen. I guess I'm only allowed to pick one. So from what I've seen out here at the limited amount of time that I've been here, you would be our champion shower in this division. Congratulations to the young lady with the Angus steer.
Congratulations to Kirsten Clark winning this year's 4-H Senior Beef Showmanship Award. She will compete against the Junior Showmanship Champion to see who's going to take home the Harold Rice Trophy and advance to round robin. Kirsten's Senior Showmanship Award is sponsored by Matt and Micah Grayson from Foggy Morning Farms. Now time to have the 4-H Junior Showmanship and 4-H Senior Showmanship Champion runoff. We'd like to ask Bailey Miller, your champion 4-H Junior Showman, to come back into the ring to square off against Kirsten Clark, your 4-H Senior Showmanship winner, to see who is going to take home the Harold Rice Trophy and who is going to compete in the round robin on Thursday.
I need to get it. I don't have the best memory, so sometimes I go a little quick and I want to get to talking before I forget. Congratulations to each of you two young ladies. Nice job of showing. Talk about the demeanor and your just ring presence of kids out here. I think both of you have that. I mean, there's different levels of intensity between you two, but I like what each of you bring to the table. If I was going to change something, I hate for any of you to leave without something to build on. I would probably change your free arm. For example, right now, you're a little bit close to the rail, but you need to be able to position yourself where you can extend your arm just a little bit and picture a 45-degree angle from the point of his left shoulder. You set yourself out just a little bit. This is really subtle because you do a good job. That's a subtle difference, but even when you're walking your steer, if you can create a little bit more separation, I don't mean out here uncomfortable, but just a little bit more, I think that's going to help you a lot. One other thing, and the young lady behind you does a really good job at it, this will really elevate your showing. As you're getting to your spot, go ahead and change hands before you get there and begin backing into it with your free hand at his head. And when you get there and stop him, you're ready to get to his belly. When you stopped him, you hadn't changed hands yet. So do that before you get to your spot. That's going to really help your showing. Your techniques, a lot of the things you're doing are spot on. I mean, your balance. I thought your balance of eye contact with being aware of the way your steer needs to be. You corrected that hind leg. You've had it back most of the time since I mentioned that, and I appreciate that. But that where you position your free arm and stop, getting ready to stop before you get to your spot, are the things I change in your showmanship, and I think that you're going to be really hard to beat. For those reasons, the things that I would change about the way she shows, I think that you've kind of got a grip on it. And again, like we said earlier, least amount of mistakes today. I think from a showmanship standpoint that you've earned a championship honors as far as that goes. Congratulations to you again. Nice job.
Congratulations to Bailey Miller, your 2024 overall 4-H Beef Showman. She will take that Harold Rice Home Trophy, and she will compete in the Round Robin Show of Showmen on Thursday. All right, we're ready for our last class of today. It's your FFA Beef Showmanship class. We have 5 exhibitors in this last class of FFA Beef Showman. We have Angel Ray Bates, Brooklyn Green, Carly Marshall, Shelby McCormick, and Sierra Miller. Okay, Judge, this is your class. I'd like us to give one more round of applause for Mr. Spiker coming to us from West Virginia to work the show and judge it, and Senator Webb for coming here to help be the ring steward, and Josh DeLauder and Noah Francia working the in and out gate and the makeup ring. It takes a lot of hands to make this show happen, so we appreciate them. And if you could join me in a round of applause to show our appreciation.
Well, it's been a challenge all day, and I've enjoyed every bit of it. In all reality, I don't know that there's been a tougher decision to make today. I mean, if you watch these girls as they come in here, I guess it's one of the downsides of talking showmanship each class and giving little pointers and little things that I like or don't like. I think there's 2 or 3 of these girls out here that really paid attention and just making this really hard. So, Robin, would you like to pick these? Because I don't know if I can do it. They're doing such a good job. Too many constituents. With that said, I'll try to go down the line a little bit. Young lady with the baldy heifer initially coming in, I think she was giving you a handful. I think in showmanship, as much as it hurts when your animal doesn't cooperate, it might not have anything to do with you, but it does have a negative effect when they're not cooperating with you. It just doesn't give you the ability to showcase your showmanship skills to the best of your ability, for lack of better words. When you came out, she was kind of pushing you around. I noticed she did it with the other girl that showed earlier. But when you got collected, you've done a lot of things right. I mean, right now in the profile, you got her hind leg back that needs to be back. You got her ears up, her head up. There's a couple little small changes. You overshot the turn initially when I had you walk down the center of the ring earlier, and there a little bit ago, her front feet were pretty close. I think you did a little bit too much picking. To me, if they're pretty close, I'd rather leave them. And hopefully you guys are listening. This is something that'll help you. If they're just off an inch or just a 3/4 of an inch, you don't have to move them. Sometimes that looks better than moving them, because when you go to take weight off any of their feet, it puts all the weight on 3 feet, and it changes the whole composition of their body. So if they're close, sometimes less is more. You don't have to get them just perfectly square. I think that's something that'll help you guys down the road. Next young lady, when he cooperates, I mean, I wouldn't change. I haven't seen anything I'd change about what you do. And it goes back to when they're not cooperating in showmanship, half the battle is your partner's got to cooperate. But I will say, when he does let you do what you want to do with him, you do an outstanding job. Your technique, and you're fluent in your motions, and really well balanced and calm but authoritative with him. You do a nice job. Next young lady, very few mistakes. I think that you do good. You haven't lost track of me throughout the show. You put him where he needed to be. There's a couple times maybe when he moves, I would like to see you probably straighten him out. Right now his front are back a little bit, maybe a little more awareness of his feet. There a minute ago when he moved his legs, you had good eye contact. You had him set up perfect, but he moved his legs and you didn't change anything. And you should, most of the time, you should be able to feel that in your halter if they move a leg and know to check him. And I didn't see you check him when he moved. I'm getting really picky because you guys are doing an awesome job. I mean, all from one end to the other, you guys, what I'm saying is very, very picky. And it's not a make or break deal in most classes, but I've got to be that way because you girls, young ladies, are doing such a good job. Next young lady with the steer, you do a lot of things right. And like we've talked about earlier, your posture and your transitions, your eye contact's been good. You need a little more ring awareness of where you place your calf. Initially, you got a little bit close to the steer in front of you. Right now, you're a little bit out of line, especially if you have one that's smaller than the cat on the ring. You never want to let them fade back away out of line. So just your ring awareness in terms of where you place your calf will be really beneficial to you in the future showing. I would like to see you have a little more arm extension. You're old enough and strong enough that you can separate yourself just a little bit, especially when you're walking him. You get a little bit close to him. This is really subtle because you have some arm extension. There are just a few times I thought you was a little bit too close to his head. Getting really picky again. Next young lady, you got the roughest spot out here because that steer knows where the out gates are, and he's making it harder on you. With that said, you're just like I've said with some of the other young ladies. You show a lot of experience out here. I think you've handled things well when he hadn't wanted to cooperate. And this probably is a sign that I'm talking too much, but I want to say something before you leave. It's the last class of the day. When you get him set up, your aggressiveness serves you well. Serves you real well because most of the time you had him set up as quick as anybody when he cooperated. There towards the end, you had him stretched out a little bit too much. His hind leg was way back. You adjusted it with your hand, which I appreciate that, to see a kid that knows that you can do a lot of showing with your free hand. I like seeing you do that. You tried to move him with your free hand and save time and step him back into place. You've hustled the whole time. I like it. It reminds me of when you're showing lambs. You just never quit checking them, and I really appreciate that about you. You're quick about it. And when you quit, other than the one time with his hind leg back when you was fixing him with your free hand, when you stop, he's right. His front, for example, right now, his front legs are down. You got the judge's side hind leg back. You're doing your best to keep his head up. You've handled some adversity out here. If I could give three first place ribbons right now, I would. Congratulations to each of you. I guess this is the last time you'll have to bear with listening to me talk. I'm not the best. I live with 7 women, so I don't get to talk a whole lot, but I appreciate you letting me analyze your cattle today. Wonderful set of people. I've enjoyed the people in the background. It's just really an honor to be able to do this. I'm usually back there getting dirty, clipping cattle more often than not, and I give you a different perspective out here, but I have a huge appreciation for what you guys have done just getting to this point. Excellent job of showing. I think there's one out here that's kind of separating themselves just within the limited time I've been able to watch. Very few mistakes made out here. Congratulations to each of you. But with what I've seen, I would use you as our champion today. Congratulations.
Congratulations to Sierra Miller, this year's FFA Grand Champion Beef Showman. She will compete in the round robin show of Showman on Thursday. Her awards are sponsored by Cox Farms and Produce. Oh my gosh, I messed up. I need another mulligan. Showmanship awards, all of them for the week, are sponsored by Matt and Micah Grayson with Foggy Morning Farms. Cox Farm and Produce did the market and the feeder calves. Yes, I mixed that up. This concludes our beef class. We do have poultry and rabbits tonight. We'd love for you to check us out then, and be safe traveling home.